Carlton Gamer. I'm a composer. I taught music at Colorado College for 40 years. The person who took my place when I retired is my friend and colleague, Ofer Ben-Amatz. I'm going to talk to you about the compositions that you'll hear on this program. I will talk to you first about two songs for flute and voice. These songs are by a Chinese poet. They are translated from the Chinese. The poet is Li Po, who in Chinese is usually called Ri Bo. He is one of the great Chinese poets. He's one of what are usually regarded as the three greatest Chinese poets, along with Tu Fu and Po Chui, and his poetry is renowned everywhere in the world. He's probably best known for the poems that he wrote that were translated into German and used by Mahler in Mahler's piece called Das Lied von der Erde. His poetry is pretty well known by everyone who studies Chinese, and these two poems in particular are well-known Chinese poems. The first one is called On Hearing the Flute at Lo Cheng. Lo Cheng would be pronounced more like a Ri Chong. These poems were written, both of these poems were written when Li Po was in exile. He was at the court of China, which is in the city of Chang'an, which is now the city of Xi'an in China. He was at the capital, and there was a great rebellion, a very famous rebellion called the Rebellion of An Lushan, and he was forced to leave the capital, and he spent many years in exile. These poems were written when he was in exile, and they are about exile. The first of these two poems is when he hears the sound of a flute playing over the city of Luocheng. The city of Luocheng still exists. It's in China. It's near Guilin, which is where the very famous mountains are that are shaped like this. And he is in exile for a time in that city. Actually, he spent his exile wandering from one place to another. But when he was in the city of Luocheng, he heard the flute playing. And the flute was playing a song that was well known in China at that time called Willow Breaking. The willow is a subject of Chinese poetry. The willow is known for bending but not breaking. And if a willow breaks, it's a sign of separation and a sign of parting. So when he hears that song, Willow Breaking, it brings him memories of home. So the text of the song goes something like this: whence comes this sound of the sweet bamboo? That's the flute. Whence comes this sound of the sweet bamboo flying in the dark? It flies with a spring wind, hovering over the city of Lo. How memories of home come back tonight. Hark, the plaintive sound of willow breaking. The second song, which is also famous in China, is about living in the mountains, because that's where he went when he was in exile. Why do I live among the green mountains? I laugh and answer not. My soul is serene. It dwells in another heaven and earth, belonging to no man. The peach tree is in flower and the water flows on. The phrase, my soul dwells in another heaven and earth, is related to Taoism, which is a Chinese religion. It's a controversial religion in China because in many ways it runs counter to Confucianism, which is the predominant philosophy in China. And Li Po did become a Taoist, so he was both an exile and a Taoist. The music for for my setting of these poems involves the voice, and it involves a Western flute, but one is supposed to imagine when one hears the Western flute that it is a bamboo flute of the kind that Li Po would have heard.